So I wanted to talk to you this morning about starting a series about the attributes of God, the God that we serve, so we'll know kind of who it is we serve. We live in a world where people have really developed a thought about God that really is inconsistent with the Bible. And they think they know what God is like, or they think they know better than God. And so I've had one man say to me, if that's the way God is, I don't want any God like that. Well, what kind of God does he want? Well, he wants a God that he creates, one that's acceptable to him, one that would be like he thinks God should be, which in effect makes that person God. They're able to discern how God ought to be and then judge God. And in a way, we have a lot of people who judge the God of the Bible. They don't like him like that. They don't like a God who judges sin. They don't like a God who doesn't accept certain things as acceptable that we do in our world today. He had a God who says, I hate divorce. We don't like that kind of God because we have a lot of divorce going on. And what's with God? Doesn't he understand that we're just not compatible and we ought to be able to get divorced? And say, well, God doesn't have to like it just because we think it's okay. And that's just a minor issue. You can go all sorts of kind of moral and ethical and sexual things that go on today that people don't want to be told no. They're like little kids. They don't want to be told no. None of us like that, do we? We don't like it. Didn't like it when our parents told us no. And our kids don't like it when we say no to them. And so nobody wants to be told no. And so God comes along and says, no, that's not acceptable. Now, in the Old Testament, he took care of it, didn't he? I mean, somebody said no to him. He said, fine, you're dead. Don't touch the ark, you'll die. So it starts to fall off a cart, and what happens to the guy? He dies when he touches it. And God hasn't really changed. He has a set of guidelines he wants us to live by. And he has, we talk about the 10 Commandments. If you could keep all the 10 Commandments well every day, you would be doing very well. And they haven't really changed. They're an expression of God's character. And so I want us to understand that the attributes of God, the character of God. Look at Psalm 95 and verse 3. It says, for the Lord is the great God, the great King above all gods. He is the great, great King. And when you think about that, you have this great King living in you. That's an awesome thought. To think that the King of the universe, the creator of everything, actually lives inside a Christian. And then we say, but I can't stop this thing. But I can't be loving. But I can't be forgiving. But I can't. What do you mean you can't? The God in you can. And really the problem is we don't really believe what God is like. Our problem is our view of God. And we are mistaken about his character. Okay? We're going to start with God's omniscience. And if you know any Latin at all, then you know that omni means all, and science is knowledge, knowing, which is an interesting concept, isn't it? Science is about knowing things, learning things, which is interesting because a lot of science today has turned into philosophy instead of science. Things they project they know, but don't really know. So it's not really science. So omni means all, and science means knowledge. So all knowledge. So God is all-knowing. He knows everything. Say, well, that's the end of the message. He just knows everything. Now, wait a minute. I want you to be thinking as we're going through this about your life and the God you serve. First of all, number one, the Bible never uses the term omniscience. There's nothing in Greek or Hebrew that says that God is omniscient. So when the Bible talks about God knowing, it describes what he knows. So number one, he is perfect in knowledge. Perfect in knowledge. Job 36 verse 4 says, be assured that my words are not false. One perfect in knowledge is with you. One perfect in knowledge. That means that he is absolutely right about everything he knows. He is perfect in knowledge. There isn't anything that escapes. There isn't anything wrong in his knowledge. You and I have knowledge, and some of it's wrong. Right? There's some things you think you know, and you are certain about it, and I'm certain about it, but we're wrong. There are some things that happen to us, and we think we're right about them. I have another joyful week with my lawnmower. I started to work on it. I replaced what I believed to be the problem. And it was wrong. The starter was wrong. So I put a new starter on it, and I burned it up. Because my knowledge was not perfect. I knew the starter wasn't working. I just wasn't sure why. But the man at the shop, now he has perfect knowledge. Kinda. At least he has more perfect than I have. You know, and so I take it to the shop, and he calls back and he says, well, we had to replace your carburetor. That's nice. Because it was putting gas back into the oil and into the engine, and so the engine couldn't turn over, and we had to put a new starter on it. And I said, wait a minute, I just put one on last week. He said, well, you put it on and then you burned it up. Because, see, perfect knowledge said, you didn't know why the starter wasn't working. And it wouldn't turn the engine around. So now I got a new starter, new battery, new carburetor, and we're just about at buying a new lawnmower and all the repairs, you know, but it works. I didn't have perfect knowledge, but God has perfect, complete knowledge. Now, you think about that when you think about God, and you relate yourself to Him. He has perfect knowledge. He is perfect, complete in all of His knowledge. Why don't we go find out from Him what we need? He knows everything. He knows the past. And He knows it in the right way. Have you ever thought about the past and how you look back at it and you talk about it to yourself? Have you ever laid in bed and thought, oh, I wish I hadn't have said that, wish I hadn't done that, wish that hadn't happened, why did I do that? Oh, why did that person? You have such wisdom looking back at things, but your knowledge is not perfect, is it? Because you really don't know everything that was going on in that situation. You really don't know. You know from your perspective what you perceive, but you don't always know exactly the truth. And there are people that said, I know that he did that on purpose. I know he hurt me I know what he intended. No, you don't, because you don't have perfect knowledge like God does. That's why it's important for us to say to the Lord, what really took place, Lord? What was really going on in there? What really did he mean by what he said? What really happened? Because all I know is filtered through my pain and filtered through my discouragement and filtered through my own lack of perfect knowledge. God has perfect knowledge. The second thing, nothing is hidden from God's sight. Nothing is hidden from God's sight. Nothing, and this is Hebrews 4:13 says, nothing in all creation is hidden from God's sight. Everything is uncovered and laid bare before the eyes of Him to whom we must give account. Oh, wait a minute. Nothing is hidden. You think we can hide from our parents. My kids always thought they could, they could hide things from us. We wouldn't find out. Right? Yeah, sure. There's something about how parents find out things they know that you think you don't, that you're hiding from them. We somehow think we can hide things from God, or we can hide things from other people. And people will say to people, well, I can hide that. I can come to church and smile and no one will really know the pain that's in my life. Oh, yeah, they do. And I'll tell you what happens in church is there are times when you'll come to church and you have pain and people can see it and you think you can hide it, and all of a sudden someone is able to say to you, what's going on, Ed? What's going on? Nothing, I'm just fine. Well, what's happening is the Holy Spirit is saying, hey, something's wrong in his life. Something's not going right in that lady's life. And God is able to see past that. You don't hide it from Him. And He often tells other people, go talk to them. Go ask them.